All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you again for being here, for introducing yourselves in the chat. My name is Mary Beth Becker-Locke. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Grants and Evaluation Manager at Women's Advocates. You may recognize me from my previous role as Community Education and Outreach Manager. I am back hanging out with you this morning to welcome you to our journaling workshop, Journaling to Bring the Light. Before we really get started, I want to talk a little bit about Women's Advocates. We are a nonprofit organization in St. Paul, Minnesota. We were the first domestic violence shelter in the country, and we offer what we call a continuum of safety from domestic violence. So we start with prevention programming in our outreach and education team. We have an emergency shelter that does 2-generation healing and safety work for victim survivors and their kids. And then we have a housing stability program, formerly known as Aftercare, that provides structured financial support and direct advocacy to victim survivors and their children as they leave abusive situations and enter permanent housing of their own. So this workshop is not going to take the entire 90 minutes. We're probably going to run closer to an hour this morning. And we are going to focus on, it's actually funny because there is a beautiful sunshiny day outside. And today we're going to focus on getting through the dark, short days of winter. So we're going to do 3 10-minute journaling prompts each to focus on preparing ourselves for the season, releasing the parts of ourselves that have kind of shriveled up in the cold, and finally emerging into longer days and brighter light after the solstice, which happens a week from today. So the last week of shorter days and early sunsets is coming to a close. What will we do when the days start to get longer? So before we start in on the content or on the prompts, I want to um, see if I can launch a poll here. I used to have polls. Here we go. I'm going to launch this poll to get a feel for everybody's history with journaling. So feel free to fill that out. There are 2 questions. Go ahead and fill it out as you get a chance to. But many people have this like primal instinct to record and to write down the truth of their lives as it happens. Like from the moment we learn to write, we've been putting our lives down on paper. Um, and I know this is true for me. I started my very first journal when I was 9 years old. It was very silly. And I try to write at least 1 page a day now. So a couple decades of journaling are under my belt, but not everybody has that experience. So I want to see where we're all coming from. For other people, the act of recording might not be as powerful, or it might be so powerful that it's just downright scary and you want to stay away from it. I know there are a lot of folks that believe that writing something down gives it more power, and there are some of us who believe that writing something down makes it smaller. So what's your experience with journaling? Does it scare you or excite you? Have you tried it before? I want to know. All right, thanks all for sharing. We've got a good chunk of folks um, responding. So I'm sharing those responses, and it looks like we've got somebody who tried journaling, didn't enjoy it, a couple of folks who have tried it, but not consistently. And then there are people who are curious about journaling and think it has been a helpful practice when they remember to do it. If it's not for you, that's okay. Not everything is for everybody. Hopefully you get a couple of tools to maybe find ways to make it work for you. So just a final reminder before we really get into the things to remember and the prompts. Christina Baldwin, who's a storyteller and a scholar of journaling, and whose work is really foundational to this workshop and all of the journaling workshops that I have ever hosted. She says, journal writing leads us where we have already decided we are willing to go. So this afternoon, this morning, let journaling meet you where you want to go, meet you where you're at. A couple of things to keep in mind this morning. Journaling can be so transformative and liberating, and that's because it's a very emotional practice. Um, the prompts I've chosen for today, though, are designed to meet you where you're at, just like we talked about in the last slide. Because it's 10:30 on a Thursday, and not everybody wants to get really into it. Not everybody wants to dive deep into the feelings right now. So these prompts are kind of designed to be whatever you want them to be. You can engage with them as lightly or as deeply as you're comfortable. Um, but that said, even if you are just kind of grazing the surface of these prompts, you might recall some difficult memories or some emotions might come up that surprise you, or that you might not be ready for. That's okay. It is alarming when that happens. So do what you need to do to take care of yourself if you find yourself in that boat. Step away if things get too heavy, take a break, get some water or snack, splash your face. We are going to email the recording, copies of the prompts, all of that good stuff after the workshop. So you're not going to miss out by attending to your own needs. And that is always the case. You will not miss out by attending to your own needs. So just be prepared for that. It could get tough, but you don't have to fall deep into the prompts if you don't want to or if you don't feel ready to. You can engage with it as lightly or as deeply as you wish. And then finally, this is a judgment-free zone, which I know is easier said than done. I can tell myself all the time, like, oh no, I'm gonna write this, I'm gonna journal, I'm not gonna judge a thing of what I'm going to say. And then I get to it and I'm like, oh, I should say that instead. This doesn't work. I know it's being judgment free is an ongoing practice. Um, but we're going to practice that today. This is not an MFA level writer's workshop. This is not like a competition. It's just journaling. Like, this is for your eyes only. You are your only audience. Try to resist the urge to write well and just write. Just keep your hand moving. I'd encourage you not to edit during your writing time as well, um, because you can kind of get like stuck in editing mode the longer you spend in it. So really, just try to write, and just write what comes. Don't think about whether it sounds good. Um, just do it. All right. So we're getting into journal prompts now. The journal icon on the slide means that this slide includes a prompt or a writing activity. Each prompt is going to have about 10 minutes of writing time. And during those 10 minutes, I'll stop the recording, so that people who are watching later don't have to sit through 10 weird minutes of silence. But during those 10 minutes, just try to keep your hand moving the whole time. Keep writing, get it all down. No editing, no judgment, just blah, 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 blah. And if you find yourself not knowing what to write or not knowing what to say, write that down too. You can write, I don't know what to write, as many times as it takes for you to think of something else. Um, I'll let you know when there's 1 minute left so you can start wrapping up. And then after the time is up, you are welcome to share bits and pieces of your writing in the chat, but only if you'd like. Um, this first one is a warm up, so you're not jumping into the prompts cold. Uh, so we're going to take 5 minutes for the first writing prompt. I'm going to put a timer on. And so you're going to answer these two questions, or just this one question if you wish. Do you have hesitations about this workshop or about journaling in general? Or if you want to answer this one, spend 5 minutes writing your own permission slip, giving yourself permission to inquire, to celebrate, and to explore. I'm going to start the timer now. I'm going to stop the recording, and we're going to take 5 minutes. So let's go. All right, and that is a wrap on your first prompt, your warm up. I hope it went well. If you'd like to share in the chat, feel free to do so. I know we've already got one person who has shared. Thank you for your bravery. Uh, you can share if you wish. Um, but I'm going to talk a little bit before we get into the second prompt. Give your hands a break. I'm going to talk a little bit about some seasonal struggles. Um, I wanted to focus this workshop on the winter season itself, because it can just be so fraught. Like I know every year in about October, I start to suffer from a condition called October, um, where it gets dark and it's starting to get cold and gray, and I don't like it, and I start to think, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through the winter? Um, it's a very tense time for me personally when I start to worry about like how am I going to get by without the sun? How am I going to get by without warmth? How am I going to make it through this season? And that tension happens whether or not you're a survivor of domestic violence. Now that it's December, the days are getting way shorter. For those of us who are up here in the northern hemisphere, the Earth's axis is tilted in a way that we just don't get exposed to the same sunlight we're used to during the rest of the year. And the changes in light really mess with our circadian rhythm. A lot of people experience disruptions in their sleep schedule during this time and their energy levels. And this is also the time of year where most people experience seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is a specific type of depression. Um, and then there are also the pressures we face around this winter holiday season. We've got many of the major religions are experiencing their holiday times in the 6 weeks around December. So there are also those pressures. We've gotten through Thanksgiving. Right now, we're almost wrapping up Hanukkah, but other holidays are on the horizon, and there are so many stressors around that. Um, we might be worrying about encountering former abusers at holiday gatherings or just people we don't want to talk to. We could be overwhelmed by the length of our to do lists, or the expense involved with the length of our to do list. And for some, what is a season of cheer for many people is the exact opposite. Whether it's due to past trauma, complicated family dynamics, or something else, it could be that you might be one of those people for whom December is just not a fun time. It's just a melancholy experience. Um, Personally, I've been away from my family for many of the Christmas holidays and New Year's holidays, and that has been really sad. That's been a real struggle for me. Luckily, I'm going to see my people over the Christmas holidays, so I've got that to look forward to. But ordinarily, around this time of year, I get pretty bummed out. Um, and so if you're feeling that, I'm right there with you. All right. So, in this first part of December, these first 2 weeks, we're getting ourselves ready for the rest of winter. And this first prompt is centered on preparing. We're going to take 10 minutes. And during this time, I'm going to ask you to take an inventory of the good stuff. All of the skills and the strengths that you have now that you didn't have last year, the things that you grew into. Take ample time to like love on yourself and say, good job, me, I built this. Um, take a good amount of time on that. And journaling is not for sad stuff only. You can journal about happy things. In fact, I insist it's nice to have a record of the good stuff that is happening in your life so you can look back. Um, which is why I'm asking you to take stock of those good things that have happened this year. Um, and then after you do that, after you've gone through your list of all of the great things that have happened, all of the skills that you've developed, the relationships you've formed, the things that you're proud of yourself for, then you're going to let yourself take a little time to think about your worries. So, what's got you nervous about the coming winter? And then maybe you take a look at that first section at your strengths and your skills, um, and think about, well, based on what I'm worried about, based on how I've grown, are there any skills and strengths that I have built for myself this year that can carry me through, that I can lean on during this difficult time? So again, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to start the music. I'm going to start my timer. We have 10 minutes and you're going to think about these two prompts. I'll let you know when we've got a minute left. Happy journaling. I realized I stopped recording, so I'm going to do that again and just say our next prompt is releasing. We're going to take 10 minutes again. I'll take a timer and just start to answer for yourself. What parts of yourself are dormant or exhausted or unheard or dying? What are the parts of you that you need to let go, that have kind of shriveled up, but you're still carrying them? I want you to take some time and praise yourself for carrying on and for continuing under the weight of so much stress. Um, and then when you're ready, once you've named all of those parts of yourself that are kind of falling off, or that need a break, release them. Just let them go. Imagine leaving them in the darkness or putting them on slips of paper and burning them, letting them float in the breeze, letting them go in some other way. So make that list and find ways to release that list. I'm going to give us 10 minutes starting now. Go ahead and just finish up. If you have anything that you want to add to the chat, feel free to do so. Or start typing so that you can get it in right away. And congratulations, everybody. We have made it through 2 out of 3 of our prompts for the morning. Gonna stop now and move forward. Let me know how that felt for you. I know thinking about the parts of yourself that are exhausted and that need to go to a farm upstate for a while is kind of tough. Kind of tough to think about, but thank you for doing so if you were able to. Yeah, float them down the river, send them into the ocean. I love that image. And yeah, whatever releasing image is good for you, feel free to use it. One of our yoga teacher, Brenda Hershey, who comes and does our yoga recordings and events, often has people imagine writing all of their worries or their fears on an imaginary balloon and letting it float away. If you want to do that, you can. Yeah, thanks for engaging with that second prompt. We're about to get into the last one. So, how do we prepare for winter? Like, how do we endure it? How do we get through? Um, I know for me, I spent a couple of weeks in October scrambling and freaking out about, oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make it through this again? Um, and it's important to build a toolkit for that. So if you do deal with seasonal depression every year, or if you've taken notice of how you respond to the changes in season, you do start to notice changes in your energy and your enthusiasm over time. Um, and when you start to notice these patterns, and kind of like feel yourself getting into that mode, um, you can you can begin to prepare your own toolkit for making it through the dark days of winter. Um, if you know what's coming, you can prepare. I think about like sandbagging a levee or a water wall before a big storm, or sealing up all of the drafty parts of your house before the snow comes. What are those like weather preparedness tips that you can use for your own self? I'm going to share a couple of parts of my winter toolkit with you in the hopes that that will help. It's nothing special, but maybe me talking about it gives you some ideas for you. Um, so my winter toolkit includes a whole bunch of vitamin D, because we get up north in Minnesota, we get really low levels of sunlight. It's hard for me to talk about that right now when I've got all of this coming in through my window, but we really do get lower levels of sunlight, and it hits us at an angle that doesn't like where we can't get all of it. We can't get all of its good stuff. Um, which means we have low levels of vitamin D. Minnesotans and a lot of people who live in the northern part of the world start to look a little sallow, like plants that haven't seen the sun in a while. So consider adding a vitamin to your daily routine. I take several chewable vitamin Ds every day, not just one, multiple. Or you can cook foods that are high in vitamin D. Know that it builds up in your system over time. So you can honestly, I start taking vitamin D in like late September, because I want to have a very strong, tall sandbag wall before all of this starts to happen. And then time outdoors is also part of my toolkit. I know it's cold. It's not in Minnesota right now. It's going to be 47 degrees because it's an El Nino year and the winter's all messed up. But it will get colder. That will happen. Um, and I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea, but try and soak up as much of that real outside sunlight as you can. Try and get outside for at least a few minutes every day, even if it's cold, um, because spending time in nature is really important, and it can give you a boost. Um, a lot of times in the winter, I like to walk around and look at the birds in the neighborhood and see how many squirrels I can count on my walks. I like to think that all of the creatures of my neighborhood and I are doing our own thing to get through the winter together. And so when I can point out, oh, there's my cardinal friend making his little trip back and forth for sticks and berries, or oh, there's a squirrel who looks real chubby and ready to get through the winter. Um, I feel like I can also get through the winter when I see our animal neighbors doing it too. Um, so if you want to do that, you can. It'll help. Um, Another part of my toolkit, I love to be cozy. So creature comforts. I love to be cozy. I love my fuzzy socks. Winter is way more bearable when you're surrounded by what you love. When you're surrounded by things that make you feel comfy and good. Um, I really don't love winter. I dread it every year. However, I look forward every year to getting out all of my fuzzy socks. I have like 7 or 8 pairs of Sherpa lined slipper socks that I pretty much never take off during the winter months. So I put on my cozy socks. I have my special mugs with my special hot beverages, and I put up little twinkly lights. And it turns out that surrounding myself with comfy cozies makes winter a lot more bearable because I'm having a good time, even if it's cold. And then finally, connection and play. So in the winter, I've got my fuzzy socks on. I've got my twinkly lights up. I've got like my little warm beverages. I have made myself a cozy little situation. And I often am tempted to just hole up in my cozy little situation and not see or talk to anyone or go anywhere. Um, that urge to hibernate is so real. The urge to like not go out because it's cold or because it's dark, and not see people because seeing people means going out when it's cold and it's dark. Like that urge is so strong. And it's so valid because, like, we're animals. We are not supposed to be going out and about. We are honestly supposed to be burrowed up somewhere for a couple of months. Um, but isolation deepens depression. It does. We need those connections with other people. So find something to put on your calendar during the winter, like maybe a little dinner with friends, holiday market, cookie exchange, or like a little light tour, or maybe just like a weekly walk with a friend where you go to a nature center and you look at birds. That's what I do. I take my friends to different nature centers and I make them look at birds. Um, so find something, just a little thing to look forward to, so that you can give yourself those points on the calendar and say, oh, this fun thing is coming up, or seeing this person is coming up. That way, instead of dreading winter, you have a couple of things that you're excited about. And so, speaking of looking forward and hope and all of that good jazz, um, it's time to invite hope in to the party with our third prompt, our final prompt, which is called emerging. So I'm going to set that timer again for 10 minutes and we're going to think about hope. How are you looking forward to spring emerging? And who do you want to be when it arrives? Um, what are the things that you're excited about for when it gets warmer? Um, who do you want to be when it's warmer? What kind of person, what kind of stuff do you want to do? Um, if you'd like, you can picture yourself on a bright spring day in 2024. Um, what are you doing? Who's with you? What kind of thoughts do you have on that bright spring 2024 day? Allow yourself to daydream, to visualize in the present tense what you're going to do when it gets brighter out. Um, and maybe look forward to all of that. I'm going to start the timer now. I'm going to pause recording and let's get to it, friends. Okay, last 10 seconds of this prompt. Whatever you are wrapping up, you can finish later. You can always come back to this. All right. Well, that's prompt three. Congratulations on finishing all three of these prompts and keeping going, keeping with us. Thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, um, to take a look at what you've got going on this winter, what's coming up ahead. Um, Listen to the birds, look at the green leaves in the spring. Absolutely. Yeah, I always look forward to the day the buds start to get a little bit green and everything starts to open back up really slowly. Um, Reminds me not to rush too hard in the spring. It reminds me to open back up pretty slowly too. Um, Thank you. Thank you for taking this time. And for doing the good hard work of digging into the journal. Know that you can come back to journaling anytime. You don't have to have a consistent practice. You don't even have to have like a consistent journal. You can just jot some stuff down on loose leaf if you need to. It doesn't have to be a whole big thing. You can use what you have, and what you have inside you. You can feel free to stay connected with us at Women's Advocates. We've got our crisis line, our live chat. You can scan that code and live chat or add us to your contacts. But if you want the slides, go ahead and scan this QR code. Otherwise, they will be emailed to you at the end of our time together. I have put in the chat a link to the certificate that you can fill out for yourself um, for this webinar, along with a link to the post-webinar survey if you want to just let us know how your experience was today, or any feedback that you might have for the crew. That would be great. Um, but yeah, thank you all so much for being here. This this morning. I hope that the rest of the lead up to solstice is good and growing for you, and that we all get through this winter okay. Um, we're almost there. We're almost done. It just gets brighter from here. Um, so thank you all so much. Um, look for an email from us in the next couple of days with the slides, the certificates, the post-webinar survey. But feel free to reach out to outreach@wadvocates.org if you'd like to set up a training for yourself or your staff, or if you want to know anything more about the stuff that we do at Women's Advocates. But again, thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to stop our recording